It is 2 in the morning on January the 3rd, 2026. Caracas sleeps under a disturbing silence. At this precise moment, the Venezuelan air defense radars go blind. The lights of Fuerte, the most impregnable military fortress in the country, go out in unison. It is not a casual blackout. In less than 30 minutes, the history of South America will change forever. An elite command of the Special Forces of the U.S. is about to do the unthinkable. Penetrate the most defended airspace in Latin America. Extract a sitting head of state and disappear. But how was it technically possible to cross the famous Caribbean Wall? For years, invading Venezuela was considered logistics suicide. Nicolas Maduro did not defend himself with old rifles. He had spent billions to create an access-denied bubble. We are talking about Russian-made S-300 VM systems, mobile batteries capable of pulverizing a plane at 450 kilometers. At short range, they relied on the dreaded Buk Mem-2, the same ones that terrorized the skies of Ukraine, and the modernized S-125 Pechora. And that was not all. The sky was watched by Chinese J-27 radars, sold by Beijing specifically for their ability to detect stealth aircraft. Sending all F-16s would have been a massacre. The only weak point of Venezuela was its air force. Only 21 operational Sukhois out of a fleet of 30. They could do nothing against fifth-generation technology. And so at 2 in the morning, all that multi-billion arsenal turned into useless scrap. Exactly 10 minutes before the infiltration, the United States deploys a force of 150 aircraft. The objective: total electronic saturation. The fleet comprises F-35 fighters, F-22 and B-1 bombers. In this phase, the crucial role is entrusted to the F-35s. It is they who bombard and destroy the Venezuelan air defense systems, opening, in fact, the necessary gap for the entry of the helicopters. The helicopter formation aimed directly at the heart of Venezuelan military power, Fuerte. It is not a simple barracks, but a true and proper city within the city. Fuerte, it is the nerve center of the regime. It houses the Ministry of Defense, the Strategic Operational Command, and the High Command's armored residences. It is the most protected fortress in the country. While the Delta Force prepares for insertion, the F-35s strike a second strategic target, the La Calota Air Base, to prevent enemy fighters or helicopters from taking off and providing air support to Maduro. The skies of Caracas are now under the total control of the United States. 12 special operations helicopters fly at a crazy altitude, barely 30 meters from the ground. They pass swiftly over the roofs of Caracas, invisible to radars, covered by the roar of the jets that fly higher up to distract the defense. When they arrive at Fuerte, the surprise is total. But technology is not enough, manifestly. Here the human factor comes into play: betrayal and maniacal preparation. The CIA had already penetrated Maduro's inner circle with its own infiltrators. These assets provided a constant flow of information, allowing intelligence to monitor every movement of the president in real time. The U.S. command knew exactly his position and his intentions. Moment by moment, upon the arrival of the helicopters of Fuerte, the U.S. units encounter an immediate and fierce resistance on the part of the Cuban security protecting the president. The firefight quickly spreads beyond the perimeter of the base. In a matter of minutes, the entire surrounding urban area transforms into a battlefield. The Delta Force was not improvising. In the United States, they had built an exact Oneto-1 replica of Maduro's residence. They had practiced the breach hundreds of times, memorizing every hallway, every corner to act, even in total darkness. At 2 in the morning, the Delta Force team descends onto the roof of the building, where the dictator is hiding. Special forces storm the structure. Before Maduro manages to take refuge in the security bunker, the soldiers break down the door and capture the president along with his wife. He is handcuffed, hooded, and loaded onto the helicopter along with his wife, Cilia Flores. Less than 20 minutes after the extraction, the president was already aboard a U.S. aircraft carrier, strategically positioned along the Venezuelan coast. The naval group had been deployed as an extreme contingency measure. If something had gone wrong on the ground, the ships were ready to launch a second air wave and start a missile attack, massive enough to annihilate the remaining Venezuelan defenses, a backup plan that, however, was not necessary to activate. The operation concluded according to plans without hitches. The Cuban government will later declare that 32 of its security servicemen have fallen in the clash. But the Americans also pay a price. Despite the technology lead, President Trump will confirm immediately that several pilots have been hit. Reports say wounded and bleeding, but they continued piloting to bring Maduro to the aircraft carrier to completion. No American soldier dies, but the wounded will be transported urgently to Brooke Army Medical Center in Texas. The images we see today are surreal. The photo portraying Nicolas Maduro sitting defeated, still wearing the sports tracksuit he used for sleeping, went around the world. The American presence, however, was not a novelty. For months, the battle groups of the Fourth Fleet and various aircraft carriers had patrolled the Caribbean waters, shielding, in fact, the Venezuelan coast. It was not about simple exercises. Washington had launched an unprecedented challenge, officially classifying Venezuela as a narco-terrorist state. The message to the cartels was clear. There would be no safe harbors. For years, the strategy of economic sanctions had failed. Maduro had consolidated power, rendering Venezuela an impregnable fortress. Satellite intelligence revealed the installation of foreign missile systems on Venezuelan soil, capable of striking Florida. It was a direct threat to national security. The diplomatic option was dead. Only the military one remained. The real shock, however, is not in New York. It is in Moscow and Beijing. The operation has sent a terrifying message. Their cutting-edge systems, the S-300s and the anti-radars, have been beaten, turned off like a switch. Venezuela is now in chaos, divided between loyalists who promise revenge and an army that has seen its invincible toys fail miserably. In the meantime, the Venezuelan country is celebrating the liberation from the dictator. But for how long will this joy last? Perhaps we are only at the beginning of an even bloodier civil war. If you like this type of 3D animated content, subscribe. On the channel you find other detailed reconstructions of real operations, like the mission with which the United States captured Osama bin Laden, or the incredible story of a pilot who worked both for the CIA and for Pablo Escobar.